In today's video, I am going to share with you some of my top choices for futuristic ETFs that could really pay off if everything goes the way it should when it comes to technology. So let's get down, let's check out these futuristic ETFs. So this one I've actually broken down on my channel before. It is the ARK Space Exploration and Innovation ETF, ARK X. And then, what are we really looking at with this ETF? It is a very, very high MER ETF, 0.75. Its average volume is 1.6 million shares traded every single day on average. And it's really not been around for that long, only a couple of months. It did have this very scary dip at the beginning of its life, but it is starting to recover. It would have been nice to grab it there, but again, this is something that we can look at for the future. And these are some of the holdings that it has: some different 3D printing ETFs, as well as 3D printing companies, because they are thinking that 3D printing may be the best way to actually build buildings on Mars and maybe even the moon. And then there's Amazon, because Amazon's getting into the space internet, very similar to how SpaceX is currently doing their satellite internet. Amazon's looking into it as well, and of course Amazon is a lot into the future when they're talking about investments. Lockheed Martin, really no big surprise there because of their rockets that they're developing and some of the futuristic technologies, and many others that are very interesting as well. This next one is actually very interesting to me because I like gaming myself, even though I don't really have that much time to do so. This one does actually pay a little bit of a dividend, which is kind of cool, 0.24, but this one invests in a lot of different e-gaming, which means esports, which also means just gaming company. Its expense ratio was extremely high at 0.96, and it's got very low volume considering the price of the ETF. It hasn't been around for a ton of time, but it has had some nice growth. Now, we have to really be careful with this ETF. Will this growth continue? It is starting to stagnate out. However, we have to remember that this was roughly around the time where people started jumping on the gaming bandwagon because they were out of work and out of school. So, with people going back to school, will this continue? I personally think that there could be a little bit of a pullback and then a little bit more of an acceleration later on. Now, it does pay a quarterly dividend, and the quarterly dividend is this right here. So, of course, it was paying 1.5 cents per share, and now it's jumped this March recently to 5 cents per share, which is very nice to see. Now, some of these companies you have probably never heard of, but others you have. So Nintendo is, of course, Nintendo. If you haven't heard of that, you're living underneath a rock. Activision Blizzard, which is a gaming company. EA, who is the ones who create the NFL games, the soccer games, even basketball that nobody plays anymore, only 2K. But 2K is owned by Take-Two Interactive, so keep that in mind. There is also Roblox. Again, if you've got a kid, you've probably heard of that. So there's a lot of big companies here who have, of course, a lot of money on hand. And then another gaming ETF. I think that gaming is going to be very big going over the next 10 to 15 years, mainly because I think that with VR and a lot of this new technology coming out, I think that gaming is going to be very, very big over the next 10 to 15 years, especially with different cryptocurrencies, as well as when you're talking about the ability to possibly even make money in-game as a full-time income with some of these games that are starting to come out over in Japan and over in the Asian continents. There's games that are coming out where you can actually earn different cryptocurrencies, and then on top of it, there's going to be different things. So, for example, you could have a car in a game that is a non-fungible token, an NFT, and basically what that does is there's only certain numbers of that car in the game, and of course you can buy and sell them. There may be a rare one, or the rarity may go up over time, or rarity may go down over time and decreases that car's value. But, for example, there may be only 100,000 Ferraris in one specific game, and then once they're all purchased, the value of them go up depending on how many people are selling them versus how many people want to buy them. So I could buy potentially a Ferrari in a video game for, let's say, $100, and then flip it 6 months later for $1,000 because somebody wants to drive that car in the game. So this is what I'm talking about with the future of gaming. It looks really bright, and there's some really interesting ways on how the gaming manufacturer could actually make money doing this without having to re-up the game every single year. And this is another one that does the esports. Now this one's quite interesting. It does have a much higher volume, which is good to see. We want to see that. Now this one does have a little bit better yield as well. This would actually be my personal choice if I was to invest in a gaming ETF. I am actually currently looking at investing in NERD, N-E-R-D, which is the ticker symbol for this ETF. Again, not been around for too long. It has had a nice run up during COVID. Will it continue? Probably not. I'm waiting for a little bit of more consolidation to come. I personally think it will re-hit that all-time high probably in a year or so from now. I think there's going to be a little bit more of a pullback. I'd like to see it really come back to its consolidation period around $25. Will it happen? I'm not too sure. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Never trust a random person on the internet. The 2 dividends it has paid, it seems like it does pay a dividend only once a year, so it's not a massive dividend type payer, but this past year it did pay a 31-cent per share dividend. Its biggest companies that it holds, of course, are these. Corsair, we all know about them and their mice, their keyboards, things like that. Razer, same idea. EA, another one where it creates the game. Activision Blizzard, where they create the game. There's a lot of massive companies. Again, I like gaming. I think there's a very bright future for gaming. However, this is more of a 10 to 15 year hold. So these are kind of my 3 ETFs that I would say would be looking great over the next 10 to 15 years. This is my take on it. I hope that you have your own take. Leave your comments below. I would love to hear them. Make sure to go check out my favorite investing books down in the description as well. And I'll see you guys again next time.